What's up guys, David here, and Samsung has officially announced the Galaxy Note 8. This is the successor to the short-lived Galaxy Note 7, and it's a phone that Samsung thinks a lot of die-hard Note fans have been waiting for, which, is probably true as it's the first Note you can actually keep since 2015 if you're not counting the limited time fan edition. So today, we're gonna go over 10 things you should know about the Note 8, especially if you're thinking about buying it. This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, a website, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Okay, so the first thing you should know about the Note 8, and something I'm actually really excited about, is it'll offer better performance than the Galaxy S8. No, I'm not talking about a new processor, like don't get too excited. It's the same processor that came with the S8, which, isn't a bad thing, but the difference is the Note 8 is packing 50% more RAM at 6GB compared to just 4, which, considering that Samsung phones typically haven't had the best RAM management, that's something that's definitely welcomed. Now, the second thing you should know about the Note 8 is while the 6.3-inch screen doesn't seem all that different from the Galaxy S8's 6.2-inch screen, the Note 8 screen does have certain advantages. For one, the curved edges are now less pronounced than they were on the S8 Plus. This gives the Note 8 more usable screen space since less of it's actually being used up by the curve, and the new edges also have the benefit of reducing the edge distortion that you'd sometimes get on the S8 screen, like when you're watching a video in landscape. And in my experience, the less pronounced edges also make the phone feel a little bit more comfortable to hold in the hand. But it's not just the edges that are more subtle. The corners of the screen are as well, with the Note 8 having less rounded corners than the S8 Plus does, which again gives the Note 8 more usable screen real estate. So it's only 0.1 inches bigger on the spec sheet, but when you use it, it does actually feel bigger than that, which on a Note is great. But the third thing you should know is not so great, in that the battery powering this larger screen is actually smaller than the one on the Galaxy S8 Plus. It's not by much, it's a difference of like 200 milliamps, but still, it's kind of disappointing considering that the screen is bigger and will probably suck up more battery. Now, if you're sitting there like scratching your head wondering why the heck Samsung would put a smaller battery in a bigger phone, well, there are probably two reasons. The first reason for a smaller battery is obviously safety reasons, right? Like Samsung just can't afford to have another battery issue after the whole Note 7 debacle, and they might be playing it safe using a smaller battery with the Note 8. But the other reason, and probably the main reason for the Note 8 having a smaller battery, is unlike the S8 Plus, the Note 8 has to hold the S Pen, which takes up a bunch of internal space, right? Apple said that part of the reason they removed the headphone jack from the iPhone was because they thought it took up too much internal space. Well, the S Pen takes up the equivalent of maybe 4 or 5 headphone jacks. So while I am disappointed with a smaller battery on the Note 8, I'm willing to cut Samsung some slack here, considering that unlike Apple, at least they're still including a headphone jack. The fourth thing you should know, unfortunately, like the battery, is also a bit of bad news, in that the placement of the fingerprint scanner still sucks, okay? However, the good news is the fingerprint scanner is at least farther away from the camera lens compared to how it was on the S8. The cameras are on one side, with the fingerprint scanner on the other, with the heart rate sensor and the flash acting as a buffer in between. This small separation will go a long ways in preventing you from accidentally smudging up the camera lens when you're trying to unlock the phone, which, is definitely nice, and it also makes finding the fingerprint scanner a lot easier since you can quickly distinguish it from the rest of the sensors, unlike on the Galaxy S8. Now, speaking of sensors, the fifth thing you should know about the Note 8 is it has a dual camera system. It's a lot like the one on the iPhone 7 Plus. It has similar features to it like 2x optical zoom, along with a live focus effect that gives you that nice background blur that you typically only get on DSLRs. However, what's cool about the way Samsung has integrated it is you have the option to essentially undo the blur effect in case you change your mind or in case it messes up, which from my experience happens from time to time with these dual cameras. The cameras also support a dual capture mode where the phone will take two photos at the same time, one from the telephoto lens and the other from the wide angle lens, which is great for when a photo you took comes out blurry, as you'll at least have a backup option that may have come out clearer. In fact, this exact situation actually happened to me when I was testing the phone, with the zoomed in photo coming out blurry while the wide photo came out perfectly clear. So if you only have one opportunity to take a photo, the Note 8 might just be your safest bet. Now, this isn't to say that blurry photos when zoomed in will happen a lot, because unlike the iPhone 7 Plus, both of the cameras feature optical image stabilization, which in theory should reduce blurry photos and shaky videos while zoomed in. But something that you should note about the dual camera system, or like any dual camera system for that matter, is when you're in a low light condition, like when you're indoors for example, zooming in won't actually take advantage of the telephoto lens's optical zoom, and instead the phone will apply a digital zoom using the main wide angle lens. So you will lose quality when zooming in darker situations, where in well lit situations like when you're outdoors, the phone will actually use the telephoto lens, allowing you to zoom in without losing any of the quality. Now this isn't a big deal, all the other dual camera systems I've tested do the same thing, but it is something worth considering if you plan on taking a bunch of photos zoomed in while indoors, because at that point, like, you're really no better off than you would be with a single lens on the Galaxy S8. The sixth thing you should know is that there are several different models of the Note 8. Just like with the S8, Samsung is using two different processors depending on your region, with countries like US and China getting Qualcomm Snapdragon 835, and almost the rest of the world getting Samsung's own Exynos 8895. But the differences don't stop there. Unlike the S8, the Note 8 will have three different storage tiers, with the standard 64GB, 128GB, and even a 256GB option. All models are expandable via micro SD, and the phone is available in 4 different colors. But if you live in the US, you should know that your choices are unfortunately going to be limited, with only the 64GB model being available, with black and silver being the only color options you can choose from. That's the boat I fall in, and it's disappointing because that blue Note looks really nice, but what are you gonna do? But at least the seventh thing you should know is a bit of good news for those of you who live in the US, and that for the first time, Samsung is launching an unlocked version of the Note 8 right alongside the carrier versions. With the S8, you had to wait a month before you can get the unlocked version, which, when you're excited for a new phone, is a really hard thing to do. So if you want a phone with no carrier bloatware and you want a phone that will work on any network, I'd strongly consider taking a look at the unlocked model, which Samsung does seem to be doing a better job at updating now compared to the unlocked S7. But regardless of whether the Note 8 you end up getting is unlocked, or it's gray, or it's blue, the eighth thing you should know is that it won't work with any of the previous Gear VR headsets, even the one that just came out with the Galaxy S8. The ninth thing you should know about are the new software features that Samsung will be rolling out with the Note 8. For those of you who care about split-screen multitasking, Samsung introduced a new feature called Smart Pair, which allows you to save a pair of apps to open up instantly together in multi-window mode. So you can have the Maps and the browser app as a pair, and anytime you want to open up both of them at the same time in split screen, you can do so easily with a single tap. In messaging, there's now something called live messages, where you can write a handwritten note with the S Pen or your finger and send it to your friends, with them being able to see the message unfold exactly the way you drew it. This is the same way Digital Touch works on the iPhone, but the nice thing about the way Samsung did it is the animation automatically is converted into a standard GIF format, meaning you'll be able to send it to anyone, regardless of what kind of phone they have, whether that's an iPhone or an Android phone. There's also a new option in the settings called Dual Messenger that allows you to install multiple copies of your messaging apps if you want different usernames, and the phone also comes with Android 7.1.1 out of the box, so you get a ton of new features there as well. However, at least with my time with the phone, it looked like the app shortcuts that Google introduced in 7.1 are still unsupported. I'm not sure if this was a demo unit thing, but hopefully the feature will be fully supported by the time the Note 8 launches. Now, speaking of launching, the 10th thing you should know is the Note 8 is officially launching on September 15th, and it'll be very expensive. It'll come in somewhere around $950 depending on where you get it, but Samsung is at least offering past Note 7 customers up to $450 in credits, and right now if you pre-order, they'll throw in a free micro SD card and a wireless charger, which just might make that $1,000 that you're dropping on the phone feel worth it. But what do you guys think? Now, before I jump out of here, I want to talk to you guys about the sponsor for today's video in Squarespace. If you've been thinking about starting your own website, whether it's like for your portfolio, your blog, your business, whatever it is, Squarespace can help you make your next move. I've been building websites for years now, since like I was 13 years old, and honestly guys, I've never come across a way that's easier to get your own website up and running in a way that looks clean and in a way that looks professional. Squarespace makes it super easy to build your websites. Everything is like seriously drag and drop, and they take care of all the back-end stuff like updates, letting you focus on what it is you actually want to do with your website without having to worry about all the technical stuff. They've got tons of beautiful templates that you can choose from to match your style. They have award-winning 24/7 customer service, and right now they're hooking it up for you phone buffs, where you can start your free trial today at squarespace.com/phonebuff and enter offer code PhoneBuff to get 10% off of your first purchase. I'll have all the links and info you need down below in the description, so check it out and build that website you know you've always wanted to. Anyways, that is it for me in this video. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the very next episode.